Derek Sheridan from Rust Belt Basketball Coaches Network and Basketball Nexus website. Thank you for joining us this evening. Coach Adam Conrad, the illustrious Toledo Public School teacher and assistant athletic director, is joining us tonight for State of the Game podcast, season 2, episode 3. And Adam's going to talk to us tonight about a lot of different aspects of high school athletic administration, as Adam has already solidified himself as being a premier classroom teacher. And I can tell you from personal experience, Adam is one of those teachers who is special. The way he administers his classroom, the amount of time he puts in outside of the school day, and the amount of time he puts into communicating with his students' parents is refreshing to see that we still have public educators who are going way overboard to make sure their students are getting everything they need and getting their parents involved in their child's education. And if any of you are involved in education, I don't care if it's parochial, I don't care if it's public. Adam's doing the right thing by getting his parents involved in their education. And he's getting them involved in the goal setting process. He's getting them involved into letting the parents know, here's where your child is deficient. Here's where they have signs of success. But we need to work together to make sure that we achieve this goal for your child together. You know, when you take a classroom, and Adam is in one of the biggest cities in the state of Ohio, in Toledo, and he probably has upwards of 27, 28 students, I would imagine, maybe even more, and we'll find out in a minute. And he takes that time to communicate and get a dialogue and build a relationship with every student's parent who is willing to do that is just so refreshing. It's the way it used to be. And then we'll talk to Adam about his athletic director journey, what his goals are, where he wants to be in 10 years. And he's just one of those dynamic individuals who's done a little bit of everything, not only in public education, but also in coaching and in the charter school realm, and then also the semi-professional football out in the great state of Arizona. So, Adam, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Tell us about your journey. Tell us about where you've been and what you want to do.
Well, thank you for that introduction. I really appreciate you having me on the show. A little bit about me. I did go to school at Indiana Wesleyan University for sports management. At the time, I wanted to work in professional sports. So I started with the sports management, and I was a student assistant coach starting my freshman year for Greg Tonigal, who is still at Indiana Wesleyan. And that was actually his first year there. And I believe he's won 2 NAIA national championships since I left. So he's done a great job with
Yeah, and the
Indiana.
rankings came out this morning. They're ranked 10th in the nation,
Okay.
ninth or 10th. I can't remember. But Grace, Huntington, and Indiana Wesleyan, and I think St. Francis is going to be climbing up that ladder, as well as Marion, are
And
all
that
going to be.
and that conference is a
Oh,
murderer's row. It's so tough.
absolutely.
Yes.
Well,
So
you look at that league in the middle of the state of Indiana, and it extends up toward now up into Michigan with Spring Arbor and into Ohio now with Mount Vernon, which is just a unbelievably great basketball university by itself. And you look at the coaches in that league, and my gosh, I mean, you're looking at guys every year who are getting offers to go somewhere else at the big time level to be a number one assistant, to be something. And they're like, nah, you know what? I'll just keep staying. I'll just keep winning national championships here.
Absolutely. In fact, my senior year, we scrimmaged Valparaiso, and when Homer Drew was still there, and their point guard was none other than Jake Diebler, who's Ohio State's men's coach, and they were two great people. Just being a student assistant, they came up and they shook my hands, and they let me know if there's anything that they could do for me. They would just to reach out to them, and it was great to get to play against them. coach against when they played, and just loved it. So after I went to Indiana Wesleyan, I went back to my hometown of Urbana and got a coaching position with Urbana freshmen. And actually, before that, I forgot to mention that in between my junior and senior year, I did an internship with the Philadelphia 76ers, worked with the director of statistics for the Sixers, and he put together a NBA statistical yearbook, which we would spend all summer perfecting that. And he was a perfectionist, so I really got a lot of stuff from him, just how you have to look at the fine points. At that time, his name was Harvey Pollack. He was the only one who still was working with the NBA when the NBA formed. So a great guy as well. So I was coaching with Urbana, and I got another internship in the middle of coaching with the Arizona Rattlers, an arena football team in Phoenix, Arizona. So I moved out there for a year and worked with their director of player personnel. We did a lot of scouting. We did most of it was through video. We used DV Sport, and we did some internship work with the team as well, game operations. And it went from an unpaid internship to a paid position by the end of the season. And I got to travel with them. We ended up winning the Arena Bowl my only year there, which was amazing. Got to go to New Orleans, and that unfortunately didn't lead to a job, but it was all the plan, which I didn't know at the time. Went back to Urbana and coached freshmen there and decided I was going to sub. I had no intentions of teaching before this time, but subbing got my foot in the door to help with coaching. And I realized I liked to teach. And so I went back to school, and I was subbing all day, going to practice, and then going to night school to get my teaching license, which made for very busy times, but it was all worth it. And like you said, what makes teaching and coaching so easy, relationships you build with the players, with the students, with other teachers, with their parents. If you build those relationships, then everything else is going to be so much easier. Well, when I
Which
got
are
my
not hard to do. That's hard to do. Building the relationships with those people are hard.
Yes. And for me, I think the best thing to build those relationships is to listen to other people, hear what they're saying. I don't have to necessarily agree with them, but make them feel heard. And then you can really build those relationships.
Yes. And in order to start that process, you have to have an alpha male mentality to initiate that process, that first phone call, the first email. And emails now are kind of like yesterday's news, just in the fact that you get a billion of them a day. I know. So that phone call now, let's say that's an alpha male mentality where you're the one initiating it, and by you initiating it, you're setting the level of the playing field of how this is going to be played. And you're also establishing the fact that I'm going to take the reins of this relationship between you and I'm going to be a great communicator, which is also a trait of an alpha male, and we're going to work together to meet this goal. And everything that I just aforementioned, none of those things are easy to do.
For an athlete, few things are worse than having to compete on a slick surface. Well, my friends Tom Rose and Matt Olin have solved this conundrum by creating Grip Spritz. Grip Spritz offers a wide array of shoe-to-court traction products that are not only highly effective, but also affordable, easy to use, and easy to transport. It's no wonder Grip Spritz has become the official traction solution for the Ohio High School Basketball Coaches Association and the National High School Basketball Coaches Association. Take it from me. If the OHSBCA and the NHSBCA are making Grip Spritz their official court cleaning product, Grip Spritz simply has to be the best on the market.
Correct. Yes. But the more practice you do it, it does become easier. So that does make it a lot better. And then, so I moved up to Toledo for a teaching position. And a couple years after that, I saw a position online opening for Delta Junior Varsity basketball. I applied for it, and I got a text, I believe, or a phone call to meet at a none other than a Capers bar, which I was unfamiliar with. And that was the first and still only interview I've ever had at a bar. But like you said, it was a great conversation. Walked out with the offer and took the position before I even left the bar. And I was I'm so excited I did that. So I stayed at Delta for 6 years. My last year of coaching, we went the JV wise went 18-3. I had no intention of leaving at that time, but then within my district, there was an opening for an assistant athletic director position, so I applied for that, and I do want to become an athletic director, a full-time athletic director. So I felt that was easily the job that I needed to take. So I applied for that and took that position. At first, I was just helping with game management, setting things up, greeting the other teams, the officials, making sure there's any problems, taking care of those. But as I've had that job for a little bit, I've gotten a little bit more responsibility. Now I'm in charge of all transportation for the teams. And so everything goes through me. So I like to stay busy during my summer. I will
I
go
want
on.
to interrupt you for one
Go
second
for it. Yes.
because this is one of the things I was you know this I was an AD a million years ago, and when you talk transportation, one of the old lines is probably a foregone thing. It probably doesn't exist anymore. But you know, as an AD, you're in trouble when your bus passes the other bus who you're playing in crosstown traffic. So my point in saying that is that transportation aspect is so stressful.
Absolutely. And I have a spreadsheet of exactly when the bus is supposed to leave, where it's supposed to go, and if I submitted it or not. And then I have to go back and do it. And then, so it's very detailed, and the attention to detail that you have to have on that stuff. And with us being such a big district, when we have teams that need to leave before 4 p.m., I cannot schedule a school bus. I have to schedule a charter bus. So keeping that in mind when scheduling these things, it's a lot of information that athletic directors have to deal with. Yes.
It's going to get worse with NIL coming because it's going to be a whole different Wild West with NIL.
And there is even before the NIL, that transferring, people don't realize that it's a problem in high school. You notice it is in college, but it's just as bad in high school as well. So especially when you have a big district with a lot of high schools where it's open enrollment and they just choose to go from one high school to another.
Yeah, the legwork involved in keeping track of those things is a whole job by itself. And I want to make sure people who are on this podcast or watch it and understand something. Adam's not in an athletic department like Perrysburg, where they have an SID, where they have all of these things. It's an inner city athletic department that's ran extremely well with just old school elbow grease resources. We're not talking about the athletic director has an event secretary, a ticket secretary. This is bare bones Rust Belt inner city athletic administration where it's brain power.
Absolutely. Yes. We do have our full-time athletic director, and then myself as an assistant athletic director, and we have another assistant athletic director, but it's the three of us, and we're doing everything. So, but it's nice that all three of us, we're constant communication with what needs to happen, what has happened. None of us ever feels like we're surprised with anything, at least within the three of us. Outside sources, we're definitely surprised with a lot of things, but Yes.
So
And
as an athletic director, if you can look somebody in the eye and say, "I'm not used to being surprised," that seriously is a huge thing.
absolutely.
That's a major A plus on your organizational skills and foresight.
Yes, I've been very, very lucky to be with where I'm at and with working with who I'm working with. So that's been a godsend for me. So I did want to talk a little bit about my summers. I don't like to sit around much. So my summers, I work for a company that takes teenagers on trips around the country or around the world, and I am a director for these trips. And the last year we went to Costa Rica. I took 25 teenagers with some other staff members for 3 weeks, and we did service projects there and had really cool opportunities for activities. Year before that, we went to Ecuador. I've been to Hawaii 3 times. I've been to Alaska a couple of times. And so that is just great experience being in charge of these teenagers from on flights, everywhere in public, making sure that they don't hurt themselves when we're surfing or stuff like that. It definitely stressful, but definitely an amazing time. So that keeps me busy during the summer. And I know when I do become a full-time athletic director, that's going to stop. So I'm going to enjoy it while it lasts. And lastly, I am currently getting my master's in administration and supervision from the University of Virginia. I've got 1 semester left, so 2 classes left, and then I will get that degree, which will hopefully land that full-time athletic director position.
Have you
Mhm.
ever taken your teenagers to Eastern Greentown to the Wildcat Reservoir?
I haven't, but I've been talking to the company, and I'm trying to get that on the list of future trips. So that's coming, maybe.
Okay, very good, very good.
Well, I got a question for you. What's the transition from coaching, since I was last with you when you coached, to a small business owner? What's that been like?
Crazy because I'm still full-time teacher. Maumee City Schools is very strict about, as they should be. You know, when you clock in at Maumee City Schools, you clock in as a Maumee City School employee. The amount of text messages and emails I get during the day, I have to push those off until after school. And living 22, 23 minutes away from campus has been good, just in the fact that I can use Siri to answer a lot of the questions or whatnot. It's not a whole lot different than coaching, other than I'm a one-man show here. And I hate to say that because my wife does do help a lot, but it's the same aspects probably in any leadership capacity where there's always people coming up to me and saying, "Hey, what can I do to help? I really enjoy your newsletter. I enjoy your posts on social media." And I'm at the point now where those pretty much go in one ear and out the other, because anyone there's not very many people who say that then follow through. I've had people say, "We want you to be part of this organization." And then I follow through. I come back at them, "Hey, this is the date I told you I'd come back at you with," and I just don't get a response. And you've been around me enough that I one of the things I hope a lot of the kids who played for us took away from us is no response is a response. If
Hmm.
they're not responding to you, then you're just not on their radar, man. You don't matter. And so
Hmm.
move on. And so I've learned how to do that without getting salty, and I think you know how type A I can get or am. But I've learned how to manage that. The amount of people who want stuff for free has I don't want to say it's been a surprise, but I had someone say, "Hey, can I get this video?" And it was one of our better selling videos where I had to drive over, 3.5 hours to go videotape this and then bring it home and edit it and package it. And when I say package it, I'm not talking about physically package it, but get it edited, trimmed, presented, make the banners for it. And this guy's like, "Hey, can I get that?" It's like, Yeah, it's available on our website. It's, $22, whatever. I think it's $22. He's like, you're seriously going to charge me? Well, yeah, that stuff now that's kind of come and gone. I don't think about that stuff too much. The main thing that I have picked up on as a small business owner.
Brad Morrison and Danny's Cafe, located in beautiful Rossford, Ohio. Danny's Cafe is the ultimate spot for a family friendly breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or a night out with friends to watch your favorite high school, college, or pro team. Danny's Cafe offers an incredible food experience for people with varying types of palates, and the service is fast and provided by the most hospitable staff in Northwest Ohio. The next time you're on the hunt for a place to grab a bite or cheer on your favorite team, head to Danny's Cafe, located directly across the street from Rossford High School.
Is definitely your standbys. And where I grew up, we called those your 3 a.m. guys. It's 3 a.m. and you've got two people who are 3 a.m. guys or whoever, how many, I don't know, in your Rolodex or contacts, whatever. And these are the guys at 3 a.m. Your tire busts out on I-69, just south of Fort Wayne, whatever, and they're going to come help you. They're going to actually answer the phone. And your standbys, your 3 a.m. guys, are always going to be there for you. And now I'm like, okay, I'm beating these guys to death. I got to back off of these guys or I'm going to burn them out. But you can't have too many of those guys. And the problem is, Adam, and I don't even know if problem's the right way to say it, but you know this just as well as anybody. Nobody's got too many 3 a.m. guys.
Correct.
They're just a rare, rare breed of earthling who fewer than far between now. I think the number probably diminishes every year. Those are the main things. The amount of work, just the little details that I didn't anticipate. Adjusting my schedule, my sleep pattern has been a big thing. And the amount of money it costs to get stuff done is crazy. Stuff I never thought of. A tool, an application to edit video, something to do this, something to do that, whatever, whatever. All these things are very expensive. And those are the things that I should have researched more before I jumped into it. But that's a good question. I appreciate you asking me that.
Do you miss coaching?
I do. I miss it a lot. I miss practices. I miss
Mm-hmm.
planning practices. I miss being around the kids in the locker room after practices, before practices. I miss preparing for games. I don't miss game night. I got to the point where game night was killing me with just nerves. And I think after someone has so many rebuilding jobs, I think that probably happens to most of us who have been in that um, genre of coaching, and it definitely was me. I I miss the relationships with the assistants. I miss our social life. I mean, we were together all the time. You and I and Matt, or if I was at Maumee, those guys. I miss that stuff. I there are some things I don't miss. I was very lucky in my career, um, to a certain degree. I didn't have a lot of parent problems, but the parent problems I did have, they were special. The parents I had who were ready to step into the ring were they came with papers. They were an admirable crazy. But I had a lot of good experiences throughout my career. I did. I don't have a lot of regrets. I think if I regret anything, I think we should have pressed more. But again, going back to that rebuild word, when you're rebuilding, it just never seems like you have enough time.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to be good at the basics. And that was definitely, high on our priority list when we were together. We just want to be good at the controllables, good at the basics. And then I think and I'm going to sound like an excuse maker, and I hate excuses, but I think that maybe the pressing stuff that we wanted to do or I wanted to do just kind of fell into that miscellaneous category of, yeah, this is great, but when are we going to have time to do these things when we're still teaching kids to pivot and shot fake? And
Yeah, I do think that our defense was. I know we didn't score off our defense like we would have pressed, but our defense was pretty good when we were working together.
it was a high octane defense that left the kids with no choice. The one thing I liked about the most was, man, you're either going to do it or you're going to get smoked. And I mean,
Hmm.
like, blown out of the water unless you get out and get after this, and then you can compete. But there's no taking a defensive stand off. I mean, I thought it was a very physically challenging defense. I thought it was extremely focused oriented. I thought the kids had to focus. I think they had to know their positions. But yeah, I. How about you? Do you miss it?
Very much so. I didn't realize how much until I had to go back to games, which I
Hmm.
love the games. But then when you sit behind benches and you see what's happening on the bench, like, yeah, I definitely miss like what making those in-game adjustments, having that those relationship with those kids because I still do have the relationship with the kids, but not quite as a coach. So yeah.
As an AD, you're like the godfather of the entire athletic department, where you're the guy who makes things happen.
Mhm.
But you're also the guy who can say, I ain't making that happen because you're acting like a jackabout or whatever. So I did enjoy that aspect of it. I loved walking into the cafeteria and being able to walk over to the kids, even the kids who were in the band, and said, man, you guys had a great sound last night. Or somebody might have had 8 points who's never had 8 points in their career. Hey, you did a good job last night. Now, let's build upon this. I love that aspect of it. I love the aspect of getting to know some, for example, kids on the swim team. And, those guys and girls have a mentality like an iron rod. Those are just tough, tough kids because, you know, that's a hard thing. Cross country is another one. That's hard. You know,
Absolutely, it is.
so I like getting to know those kids, and I really like the fact that, I know you and I have talked about this in the past. When you show those guys and gals from the quote unquote non-revenue sports some attention, and you're like enthusiastic about their successes, man, you've just helped create your own army.
Yes, we had our first soccer program since about 2009, and going to those games, those are kids that I wouldn't have met if it weren't for soccer, and they were some great kids. A lot of them learned English for the
Yep.
first time this year, and just seeing that progress that they had, that was just amazing.
Yeah, I think it's heartwarming to the point of exhaustion as an athletic administrator to see kids have a positive scholastic athletic experience, because a lot of those positive experiences have stemmed from the seeds you as the AD have planted. And man, that's work. And that's something John Q. Public doesn't know, and they never will. Setting up, painting the lines, getting the scores table ready, getting the score box ready for a football game is an incredible amount of work. Making sure the PA system works, having water for the officials, having hot dogs for the officials. I have to, all of those things are just flat out elbow grease, sitting down and working.
Absolutely. Yeah, we had just a minor change in plans on our last men's basketball game where the Army National Guard was there and they wanted to do a player of the game. So I had to think about who are all the people that need to know that we're not starting warm-ups right away. And it's a lot more than you think. It's not
Yep,
just the two teams.
absolutely. Another thing, and then we can move on from this. Another thing that people don't understand, and really nor should they, especially the people who are never athletes, cancellations, postponements create an enormous amount of work for the AD.
Yes, very much so.
And I guess I'm going to go back on what I just said. I'm not done beating this to death because you don't want your kids playing back-to-back nights unless it's Friday, Saturday. But you don't
Mhm.
want a Tuesday, Wednesday, or a Wednesday, Thursday. During the school week, as a quality AD is like, no way. These guys still gotta get sleep. They still got school. What if they've got testing? What if they've got a big project to do? So during the week, unless it's baseball, which is in softball, which is darn near impossible,
Mhm.
you don't want them playing back-to-back nights. And that presents a huge ordeal.
If you're looking for an easy and affordable way to purchase all of your sporting good needs, look no further than Game One, located in Swanton, Ohio. I've worked with LJ Archambault for 20 years, and I have never worked with a more honest, punctual, and detail oriented sporting goods salesman. I coached for nearly 3 decades and in 2 different states, and have never worked with a better organization than Game One, and more importantly, a better person than LJ Archambault. It's always game on at Game One.
Yes, yes, and especially if travel's involved. Yeah, that just makes those nights so long.
Oh, finding the bus drivers. Yeah, all of those things. Those are things that people take for granted because they have a great athletic director at their school that allows them to take them for granted.
Yeah. Mhm.
Because when it backfires, it sure doesn't look good. It has a
Right.
terrible optic. And that I think this line will always be synonymous with an athletic director is you can do 100 things and 99 of them were good, but that one thing that didn't go well, that's what everyone sees.
Absolutely, yes.
All right, well, tell us about who have you seen so far in boys and girls basketball that are notable? You've probably seen just as much high school basketball, if not more, than I have.
Uh, Maybe. I've gone to obviously a lot of Rogers games, and their coach Rodney Martin. I was working a girls' game, and I walked in early, and Rogers boys were practicing, and got to sit down and watch Rodney Martin practice. And that the way he practices, I told him, I said I could watch you practice every single day. His attention to detail on how to do things, it was just perfect. How they want to catch the ball when it's coming to them to be in triple threat, how to pivot, where they want to drive to make the pass, all the different things. He's just a great coach to watch practice. So and Rogers has a really good team. They haven't been healthy yet, so I don't think we've seen the best Rogers team. They did play Pickerington North.
Mm.
Pickerington North came up to us. Pickerington North has a really good team. They beat Rogers by 4, and it was back and forth the entire time. So that's a really good team that I think is going to make some noise this season. Another team that came and played not against us, but at our home court was Maumee Valley Country Day.
Mm.
I wasn't sure how they were going to be this year with losing their big athletic kid to transfers, as we were talking about earlier, but they did a very, very well job of moving the basketball and almost to a fault, but every shot they took was a great shot, and they made that extra pass a lot. Another team that was very well coached that I saw just this recently was Anthony Wayne.
Mm.
They don't have any stud athletes, but they've got a lot of good basketball players. They're very well coached. They're going to work very, very hard on defense, and they're going to kill you with backside cuts. So that's another team. And Springfield, I saw them. They're kind of more athletic. So they have a kid that could probably hit 30 any night if he was given the opportunity.
The
And
guard.
on the yes,
Yeah.
yes, I don't remember his name, but he was number
Mhm.
4. Yes. And on the girls' side, our first game, Rogers, is against Ottawa Hills, and Ottawa Hills, their record isn't that strong this year, but they've got two girls that can play. I wouldn't be shocked if both of them are playing college. They're very good. They're big, but they can handle the ball. They
Yeah,
can
they're both
rebound.
being recruited by the who's who.
Exactly. Yes. So, that they're one of the best girls teams that I've seen. So, how about you? Who have you seen?
I'm really looking forward to seeing Lima Senior play.
They played us last night. I didn't go down to it, and they just destroyed us.
Yeah, they're going to destroy a lot of people. They, I had two of their games last year with my night job with as a color analyst for BC Buckeye Cable Sports Network, and they can just flat score. But here's the deal. Quincy has those kids sitting in a stance defensively, and that full court man-to-man run and jump press that they employ is just a bear. And it's not your token seventh grade teams that run and jump. No, these guys rotate, they move on the fly to the ball. There's there's never just one rotation off the ball because they typically don't trap a lot on the ball. They just rotate off of it and then they try to pick the pass coming off of that pressure. It's good. It's solid. And then they're so good in executing their set plays. And when you can,
They're deep as well, aren't they?
oh, they are. When you can shoot it the way they can shoot it, my goodness. I'm really looking forward to watching Ottawa Glandorf. You know, they took their lumps a little bit last year, and they're back now. This is OG basketball again. And now my high school or my college roomie has moved back to Northwest Ohio from Cleveland, and he's an OG boy, and he lives on Moose Creek Golf Course, which is in Ottawa Glandorf Disc. So we've already made plans. We're gonna go quite a bit to some OG games. I want to see Defiance play. I've heard that they can just shoot the nets off of it. I've heard Walpock has a great inside game. I want to see them play. I've heard Miller City might be the most physical team in Northwest Ohio. And of course, they graduate, what, six kids a class? Something crazy. It's just such a small school. But I'm really looking forward to seeing Miller City play. Patrick Henry went undefeated last year in the regular season, and they've got everybody back. And I want to see them badly. Over on the other side of the border, I want to see Huntington North play as much as I.
If you want to help us grow, if you enjoy our content, please like, share, subscribe, and leave us comments on our social media postings. That helps us grow our small coaches network more than you could ever know. Thank you so much.
Am biased. Eric Thompson, the head coach of Huntington North, and I played against each other not only just in high school and college. And I want to see them play. Their win at Warsaw, I think Eric said was the first time in 30 years Huntington North had won at Warsaw. And he took his lumps initially, and they won 10 the second year, and I think 11 his third year. So this year, I think they're going to have something special, and they're just going to, be a typical Eric Thompson team where they're going to grind you down with his blocker mover offense, and they're going to just be able to shoot it and drive it. And they always seem, it just pisses you off when you got to play against them. They just always seem to make more free throws than my team or whoever's team even gets to attempt because they're that aggressive. He's just got this knack about making his kids so aggressive. And then lastly, I want to see Delphus St. John's. I want to see the kid who's going to Fordham. I think his name's Euler. Uh,
Yeah,
and yeah, I want to see him play. I guess he threw up 39 last night against Van Wert,
sounds about
and
right. Yeah.
Van Wert's 25 times the size of little Delphus St. John's. So those are the teams right now I'm kind of focusing. Now, Perrysburg, I left them out. This is supposed to be the best Perrysburg team. And I also got to give a shout out. I want to see Eastern Greentown play my alma mater. They've got Brad Lindsay out of retirement to coach that team. And, you know, Brad's a shoe into the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame. He's done everything, and he's doing a lot of good things there. And they've got some kids who can shoot it, and they're sitting down and guarding. I want to see them, and I want to make it back home to see them a couple times. And I almost forgot to mention our buddy, a Rust Belt Basketball Coaches Network Basketball Nexus buddy, Chad Bailey from the great state of Virginia at Holston High School, who has a clinic video on our website about his multiple pressing defenses. And it's a great video, my goodness. But then you listen to him talk about how he learned these presses from Rick Pitino and whoever. And then I got this in the mail.
Oh, nice.
Yes. And, he's such a good guy. My wife got a Holston High School t-shirt as well.
That's awesome.
So I'm going to be sporting that sucker around. He won one at the buzzer last night. And, he's not a spring chicken. He's just a little bit younger than me. And the celebration he did, I almost was worried for him. But it's good to see a guy, they hit a big three at the buzzer, and it's just so nice to see someone have that amount of enthusiasm and all the things he's had to go through there. They're a tiny, tiny school. So they're Miller City for you and I.
Okay.
And all the things he's had to withstand, and yet all he does is win. And he wins with good kids, and he's such a good develop. Everyone talks about his press. I mean, everybody knows that. If you say his name in Virginia, is synonymous with his press. But the thing he's not given enough credit for is his ability to develop shooters. And every one of his kids plays football. And they made
That's big.
they made a big tournament run. So he's just one of those guys who gets it, for lack of a better term. He puts his kids in a situation to be successful. He builds a ton of enthusiasm around his program, and every year he adjusts his presses. Like last season, he very rarely ever picked up 3/4 or full court. He just backed up into a half court 1-3-1, but he taught the heck out of it, and that was their thing. So I got a ton of respect for the guy. I even more so that my wife and I got a free t-shirt.
Speaking of teams that have all their players play football, I'm interested in seeing how Liberty Center plays
Mm-hmm.
this year. Coming off of a football state championship, they're going to play Rogers on Martin Luther King Day,
Yep.
and I'm interested to see how their aggressiveness matches up with our athleticism and shooting, and I think that's going to be a good matchup.
Have you seen LC's non-league schedule?
I have, yes.
It's unreal.
Yes.
Coach Badenhop, he's got both feet in the boat. If you can't see this schedule and get the inclination that, hey, we're building for making a tournament run, I would question your ability to read. That non-league schedule for a school that small is unreal. And
Absolutely.
you hit the nail on the head when you use the word physical, because they're going to come out and just physically beat you to death. And when I say that, I'm not talking about dirty or stupid or shoving. I'm talking about chucking cutters on a base not out of bounds play. If you've got a play designed for your best shooter to go from the right side of the floor to the left, it ain't happening. It ain't happening. He's not getting there. They're just that much. They're so strong, those kids. And you can talk about Liberty Center physical strength as anyone should, but It's synonymous with the Shelby County teams and it's synonymous with the MAC teams. They're used to winning and they don't like to lose. And when you're in a school district, and I'm going to throw Napoleon and Patrick Henry in this scenario as well, where your great 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 grandfather lettered for them in 3 sports, and your brothers and your dad and everybody in your family has lettered for that school, there's some pressure there for you to perform. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. And Badenhop does a great job of teaching those boys. So,
Oh, I think he and Mike Floyd at Central Catholic have it down to a science of, okay, we're never going to have a team. You never say never. Let me rephrase that. You on an average of 10 years, they're probably not going to have many teams who shoot over 30% from the 3-point line, but they're sure going to shoot a high percentage from the 0-footers. They're going to offensive rebound. They're going to
mhm,
find a way to get to the foul line, and they're going to guard, and they're going to execute. And those are, and that's what all those are all great things, especially when you're talking about gigantic high school kids.
absolutely. Now, how about college? I have not seen any college games at
Right.
all this season due to my schedule,
Yeah.
hoping that's going to change really soon. But what colleges have you seen that you like?
I'm really into Idaho State. They've got a Gus Etchison. I played against his dad in high school, and he's having a great season for Idaho State. He transferred from Marion in Indianapolis out to Idaho
Mhm.
State. He went from NAIA Division One, and he's just having a great year. Really into the St. Thomas Tommies, big time. I love how fast they play. The pace of play that they utilize is just off the rails. They can just shoot it, and I love how they isolate players. I don't know this to be a fact, but I'm also, I might not be the sharpest knife in the box, but I don't think I'm the dullest either. Watching them play, it looks to me like they spend an incredible amount of time in their scouting on just who can we pick on offensively. And that might come off of a simple 1-4 low. It might come off of isolating people on the blocks, and it might come off of getting the thing to the wing and everyone empties out and letting this kid go. And I just think Johnny Tower might be the most underrated basketball coach in NCAA Division One basketball. I mean, you're talking about a program that went straight from D3 to D1, and not just in basketball. And they're winning games in every sport. Last night, my wife and I went to Bowling Green State University versus Chicago State. And our ritual kind of is we go to the B Dubs beforehand and kind of pregame. And one of my best friends and one of the greatest earthlings ever to walk the face of the earth, Buddy Powers, was sitting at the bar getting ready to go to the game as well at B Dubs. And he was finishing up his meal. So we sat with him. And of course, Buddy was the longtime hockey coach at Bowling Green State University. And he's a member at Stone Ridge, where my wife and I are members. So I play golf with Buddy all the time. And it's a disgusting thing to play golf with Buddy Powers because he's 73 and he shoots under his age all the time. And the amount of money I've forwarded to the Powers Foundation is substantial. But we were talking about just, we were really excited about the Tommies, the St. Thomas Tommies. And he's like, it's one thing to do that in one sport, but to make that leap, but to win in all sports is really noteworthy. Which was the smartest thing I heard all day because I never really thought about it. Now, my wife and I did watch them play football a couple times this past year, but one of their football games, they beat Davidson, beat them bad. Davidson, it's,
Right.
and plus the other thing people seem to not focus on, which would be easy not to focus on, is, St. Thomas is a research university. So the kids who go there to play sports are going to go on to be somebodies.
Correct.
So I'm really into Washington State. Mike Riley, who took over the Wazoo program from Eastern Washington, and we've got that video up that we made of Eastern Washington running 1980s motion, and that's still up on our YouTube channel. And then he got rewarded for having a great run at Eastern Washington with the Wazoo job, and he's still running the same stuff. Now he's got NIL now, and he's got all these things, but he's still running the same stuff. And they're fun to watch if you like to watch basketball the way it was played when the motion game was prevalent in the Big Ten or wherever, where they've got they have the old 4 out 1 in. They don't ball screen a lot, but man, the amount of off the ball screens, they just pound people and they screen. They don't interchange. You watch some of these guys now, they've never had to set a screen in their life, and he's good. He's got these guys playing. I don't think they're as good as they were execution wise at Eastern Washington, but I don't think they ever will be because he's got better players now. And I think he's got a lot of things. I think they do a lot more ISO stuff, which he has to. I mean, let's just be honest, he has to. But man,
Hmm.
they're still better than most. I really have enjoyed watching DeVries at IU. I love the fact that IU basketball is back to sitting down and guarding. I love the fact that IU basketball is back to screening for people to get open. I love the fact that IU basketball is back to playing fast and organized and playing fast. And I love the amount of enthusiasm. Of course, Purdue, I love watching Purdue play. Matt Painter is just such a great, not just X and O's guy, but just such a good guy by and large. And I've known Matt.
Hmm.
I mean, Matt probably couldn't pick me out of a lineup, but we did play against each other when we were young, whatever. But I love watching Purdue play. I love the fact that Purdue was the only school, Division I school, that offered Braden Smith. I've really gotten into St. Thomas, Florida. I love how fast they play, and I love how they share the ball, and I love how they sit down and guard. Um, of course, Bellarmine. I've always, since Bellarmine went Division I, I've been a huge advocate of Bellarmine. I think they play the game the right way, as far as they've got that really spread out 4 out 1 in motion. They change defenses. They're primarily man. Sometimes they switch, sometimes they don't. I love watching them play offense. I love how fast they play. Even in the half court, their actions are fast. I love how they pick on people with their back doors. I've really enjoyed watching Muskegum play. Nate Wally, who was on
Hmm.
our staff, who's now the head coach at Muskegum, and they're 8-1 now. And the Maumee boys and I are going Saturday over to Tiffin, Ohio, to Heidelberg to watch Nate battle Heidelberg, and hopefully he gets another win. But you know, going from, I think they won 3 games his first year at Muskegum, and the program was a train wreck. There were a lot of bad things, and then the next year they scrape away, and I think they got 7, and then they got to last season where he was coach of the year and had a great season. And obviously this is all transfer, he's just got that thing rolling. And they play such a fun brand of basketball to watch. They just go. They just go, and now the gym's full again. And see, younger people don't know, or maybe they forgot that, Dr. Jim Burson was the head coach at Muskegum. And he was the president of the NABC, the National Basketball Coaches Association. And he was one of the most famous coaches in America while he was at Muskegum. And Nate's brought that back. And I think that's great because, you look at his facilities and my goodness, he's, that's a big gym to fill. So
Hmm.
I've really gotten into them. I've really enjoyed watching Iowa. with Ben Jacobson. But man, watching them play is like an offensive clinic. The amount of things I didn't know there was so many different things you could do out of a horns formation. And the amount of stuff they do out of that, and of course, that Sturts kid is just a stud.
Mm-hmm.
My gosh, he's something special. But
Have you
outside,
seen Illinois State this
I
year?
have, yeah, Ryan Peden's team. I'm glad you said that. Yeah, RP's team. Yeah, my gosh, the thing with RP with Ryan, he was so good to us high school coaches in Northwest Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
He was just one of those big timers who we could sit down with and talk and didn't big time us, and just a great guy. My gosh, just an old school guy. Just like those old Don Myers or Bobby Knights or Gene Katie's or Ludu, all those guys who enjoyed talk, Bob Huggins, who enjoyed talking to high school coaches. He's
Mm-hmm.
one of those guys, man. He's great. And the way they're getting out and guarding, my gosh, they're getting out and they're playing the passing lanes like it's 1986, and the amount of pressure they're putting on the ball is in the footwork. It's so much fun to watch if you've seen basketball played that way versus Packline. And I tell everybody this: I don't have anything against Packline, not at all. I think Packline's a great defense. I mean, my God, Dick Bennett won a gazillion games with the Packline. It's a great offense or a great defense for modern offense because it takes away the north-south game. But RP's got his boys out there taking away the north south and the east west, which is old school. And then
Mm-hmm.
offensively, the sets they run, the misdirection sets, his 6'1" Johnny Kissinger point guard, the lobs for him. All these things are just so Indiana. So yeah, I'm glad you said that. I love watching the Redbirds play. I think for me, euphoria would be if Rust Belt basketball had their own postseason tournament after the postseason tournament, because I do think the Redbirds and the Tommies are going to make the NCAA tournament.
Mm-hmm.
I would have Bellarmine, uh, and hell, we would watch Chicago State play last night. They've only won 2 games. I can't remember the name of Chicago State's coach, but my God, do they run good stuff? And they sit down and freaking guard. And also, like, I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about BGSU going over to the Big 12 and knocking off
Mm-hmm.
K-State. Now that doesn't happen. MAC teams, unless they have a guy named Serbiak on their roster, don't go to the Big 12 and win. And I'm sure somebody could say, well, Kansas State. I don't know if Kansas State is down or not, but I do know they're Kansas State.
Mm-hmm.
And I do know that the top 3 players at Kansas State are making a heck of a lot more than anybody NIL wise at BGSU. Now, BGSU rolled them. They did. They rolled them. It was not like a short clock scenario where BGSU had to pull a rabbit out of the hat. No, they rolled them. And my wife and I made it a point, we're going to be done grading and all that stuff so we can watch this game. And the K-State kids were so taken aback by Bowling Green's physicality. It was crazy. And of course, Todd Simons is an old school guy, the coach at
Mm-hmm.
BGSU. They're not playing pack line. They're out the passing lanes and they're up in you. If you're the ball handler, man, they're going to be up in you. And it was just apparent. It was obvious that the K-State guards had not seen that kind of pressure before, maybe since middle school. I don't know. But the BGSU kids went out on that court at K-State and they just said, you know what, this is ours tonight. And we're going to guard you and we're going to bang you and we're going to out rebound you. And they did. And the K-State kids, I never saw and that kid at K-State's the nation's leading scorer.
Wow.
And he can shoot the nylon off of it. And he never looked comfortable. And that's a huge credit to Todd Simons in the Bowling Green State University Falcons. What a
Hmm.
great win for the MAC. Again, you just don't see that. MAC teams don't go to the Big 12. I mean, I love Kowalczyk at UT, but they went to Michigan State last night and had a rough go of it. And I think that just kind of solidifies how hard it is for MAC teams to go to somewhere like K-State or Michigan State or whatever and compete. And, competing is one thing, and that's part of the process. But winning at a place like that is unfreaking real.
Right. Absolutely.
How about you? And you said you haven't watched much college?
I really haven't. Turning it on a little bit, but if you remember, you asking me what my week was like. I think it
Yep,
was 4 days,
yep,
5 days. It
yep,
was sports. So,
right.
yep,
Oh, I remember. I can remember just when we were coaching together, none of us got to watch any college basketball.
right.
I
Yes.
do like watching Wisconsin. Oh, and the other team I got to watch just on a fluke that I had more fun watching was University of Wisconsin Whitewater play at Wisconsin. And this University of Wisconsin Whitewater team runs the old Bo Ryan swing.
Okay.
And it's nostalgic. I love it. It's fun watching it. But anyway, those are all things that you and I could talk about for the next 6.5 hours. So
Uh-huh.
this week's leadership tips, and these are things that we talk about with the people we have on our State of the Game podcasts, where I think these are concepts that are very valuable. If you look at any faction of, I don't care if it's corporate America, if it's education, anything, one of the biggest topics is leadership. Leadership right now is a massive, massive topic. And I've been so lucky to have people on this podcast who have such great insight into just that, leading other earthlings. So, Adam, give us a leadership tip.
Sure. The first one I've got is be prepared. You never want to be scrambling. You want to be prepared for everything that could possibly happen. And also, you want to have a policy, whether you're teaching, coaching, athletic director, you need to have a policy for everything possible. And when you have that policy, you need to follow that policy. And it doesn't matter how little that policy could be. For an example, if you have a policy such as all students need to sit in the student section, and I'm speaking from experience, it doesn't matter who it is or that they aren't creating a problem. It's the policy. Just recently at a girls' game, we had some boys players who were sitting in places that they weren't supposed to. They were fine, not creating a problem, but they still need to go to the student section because that's the policy. And when they were trying to get their way with me, well, the athletic director isn't here, so we really don't have to follow it. Yes, you do. You still have to follow that policy. So if you have that policy, then it makes it very easy to follow. Another policy that I can think of is that when parents have problems with coaches, you need to have a policy that there needs to be a meeting with that coach before the AD gets involved, and the player needs to be present for that meeting. That way, it's not a he said, she said. They can say, well, this is what happened. And majority of the time the player kind of gets caught up in the middle of it and the truth really comes out, and then the AD doesn't even have to get involved when the parent and the coach are on the same page. So don't want to jump over policies like that.
I think that's great. I love the fact that you talked about having a policy, then following through with it, because
Mm-hmm.
you and I and Matt and everybody on our staff used to talk about a lot. When you sit down as a staff and you're reviewing, even for us, our team guidelines, our parent contract, if this isn't something that we're going to follow through on, get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't follow through on it, then it's null and void. And now everything else is suspect to interpretation, and you don't want that as a leader. It's either
Correct.
solid or it's not.
Mm-hmm. How about you? Do you have any leadership advice?
Yeah, I do. The difference between uphill and downhill communication. So, uphill communication is I'm going to say that I'm a player. I'm a basketball player and on a high school team. College doesn't matter. And me saying in the locker room or sitting on the bench during the game, and I'm, just your general belly aching. Complain. That's all downhill communication. That doesn't do anybody any good, and it certainly doesn't do the team or the organization any good. Uphill communication is when I do the right thing by supporting the people who are performing and supporting the coaches. And I go to the coach and I say to the coach, here's questions I have. Basically, everything always revolves around playing time. And that's the way it will
Mm-hmm.
always be. What can I do to get more PT? Can I get a better opportunity in practice drills to show you this, and this? That's uphill communication. As an employee, if you're at the water cooler and you're talking about your upper echelon admin or the board of directors, whatever, and you're like, I don't ever get a shot. It's just all negative. It's all victim complex stuff. That's all downhill communication, and it's a waste of time. It doesn't make your situation better, and it puts the people around you in an awkward situation because now they got to listen to you bellyache. Where uphill communication is you set a meeting up with somebody and you say, hey, I want to know how I can get a shot. What can I do to get a shot? Here are my goals. And I'm falling short somewhere along this line of communication or my performance. And I need to find out where that is because I honestly don't know. And I need you to help me because I want you one day to up to someone who is a first year hire and you point at me and say, see that guy right there? He was in your shoes once. He's a great hire. Great hire. And there's nothing better that can happen to you in any line of work that the person who hired you showcases you that way. Person right there is a great hire. And here's why. Here's why. And everything, the here's why is effectiveness, communication, blah, 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 whatever. So I think one of the things I've noticed is that seems to maybe have been diminished
Mm-hmm.
professionally is that concept, and it all goes back to what you and I initially started talking about was that alpha male. And you don't even have to be an alpha, but you've got to think like an alpha a lot of times when you want to get what you want, when you're not in charge of who decides if you're getting it or not. And that means you are going to put yourself in uncomfortable situations and go ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
And if the people who hired you are truly invested in your development, which they ought to be because they hired you, they're going to have answers for you. So, yeah, I love that, Adam. Those are really good points. Wrapping up. Rust Belt Basketball Coaches Network Basketball Nexus website Christmas sale will begin on December 21st. And you can use code RBCN25 at checkout to secure a full 1 year membership to the Basketball Nexus website, all of our content, everything for $30. If you have a basketball coach in your family, or you have a basketball coach who you deeply care about, and most people, I think, would agree that coaches are very hard to shop for. This is something that you can buy a basketball coach in your life that they'll like, and they will use, and they will thank you for it. It won't be the sweater that is either a size too big or a size too small that they don't wear, and then you get your feelings hurt. You'll end up feeling like the aunt in Christmas Story who bought those poor boys the bunny outfits. Buy them an RBCN Basketball Nexus website membership, and you will soon become their hero. That's something they will use. All right, Adam, we're going to wrap up with this. What is your next athletic event? Where and when?
So I actually have an easy week this week. I am off until Saturday when we have an all-day Ray Steely Invitational Wrestling.
Hmm.
It's 12 hours long, and I will not have to be there all 12 hours, but at least half of it. And we've got 21 teams coming, so it'll be packed from the minute I walk in till the minute I walk out. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, and I want to make sure everyone understands this. Rogers Wrestling is special. Jeff Goatley, our Jeff Goatley, who was a unreal wrestler, not only at Maumee High School and then at Ohio University, and then had just a great run as the wrestling coach at Maumee High School. He got his start at Rogers. So Rogers Wrestling's a big deal. And I know people look at me cross-eyed when I say stuff about wrestling. I was one of those weirdos in a lot of factors, but I always respected wrestlers. One, they can't eat. Two, they have to hurt nonstop.
Mm-hmm.
And three, the amount of discipline it has, a person has to have to get on that mat and go head to head with somebody. You've got no excuses. If you don't do it, you don't do it.
Yep, exactly.
So I always enjoyed as an AD, that wrestling, and even as an assistant AD, I was in charge of all the wrestling events. But the wrestlers are a little bit crazy for a reason. They have to be.
Yes, they do.
Well, hey, thanks for joining us tonight, Adam. And I hope you
Thank you
come
for
back.
having me.
Yeah, I hope you come back and join us again.
I
I know
definitely will.
there's a lot of these state of the game podcasts we have where you could lend a lot to us, and you know how much you mean to me. I hope you know that. And my wife, my wife adores Adam. Sometimes to the point it makes me jealous, but um, I appreciate you joining us tonight, Adam.
I appreciate you.
Okay, well, hey, I'm going to say this for the both of us. The next 2 days are going to be extremely stressful,
Mm-hmm.
and there's going to be a lot of impure thoughts, and we're going to find a way to get through it. And then once we get through it and start our Christmas break, you and I can get together and solve all the world's problems.
That sounds like a plan.
All right, Adam, thank you.
Thank you.